My name is Michael, and I don't need a bomb-sniffing robot to come in my front door.
I'm Nicholas, and I'll tell you that the precedent is set one way or another. So you get out of line, you're going to get a pound of C4 on you.
Pound of C4, send in the burners. 1985, the Philadelphia police used helicopters to drop bombs on a suspected, quote-unquote terrorist group and burnt down 65 houses. I think they killed 11 people in that one. Yeah, I think people are kind of aware of what's going on now a little bit, and I don't think that's necessarily in our favor. There's a lot of people who applaud the action of the bomb sniffing robot, and we should start off by saying we're referring to the events at Dallas, the shootings in Dallas with the 5 police officers down, and yeah, it's looking like this is going to affect firearms rights.
Well, the funny thing is that the way that the argument is going, and it's funny to me, being a member of the military, the dialogue is not about, this guy is a racist, this guy is a terrorist, this guy was bent on executing white officers. No, the conversation goes to, we don't need to have soldiers who come back screwed up from war. Yeah, okay, whatever, folks. Keep believing the lies.
I think it's a double-edged sword there, Nick. You've got the fact that, yeah, this guy is a veteran, and that's one of the things that is on the so-called watch list and, the potential enemies list that they're putting on, and veterans returning, people who believe in America like it used to be.
That was 2 Homeland Security directors ago. That was Janet Napolitano. Come on, we moved beyond that, right?
Yeah, because we're progressive now.
That's right. No, honestly, I'll tell you what.
Forward Soviet. That's the slogan.
Yeah, there you go. So they've had interviews with actual members of this deceased. His unit was the engineer unit. They said that this guy didn't want to participate in half the training that they were trying to do in order to get ready to go to Afghanistan. Said he was not a bad soldier. He was not a great soldier. He would have never been accused of doing everything the right way all the time. They just said he was aloof. He was kind of crazy at times, and we don't convict people on that. What I see as a really big issue, and people may disagree with me, I'm sure that a lot of them do, is I think that the precedent is now set that in not only this event, but the events that happen in California and others that have happened across the nation, is that we have law enforcement agencies that are not the Officer Smiley of the 1980s. Now we got Judge Dredd, and Judge Dredd says, "I am the law." True.
Officer Friendly has retired, and Officer Jack Boot is on duty, civilian. And yeah, do not be surprised if you start seeing heavy mechanized vehicles on the roads like MRAPs. I mean, there's a lot of police departments and sheriff's departments that have the MRAPs and other heavy wheel vehicles. I mean, now they can justify the threat.
Guess who gave them that? Guess who signed the executive order that authorized?
Well, there's the executive order, and then who actually? The executive order is one thing, but in the end, it's your tax money.
It's your tax money that gets these things bought and purchased. But guess what? It is everything from your city council or your mayor who oversees your police department. It gives them the authorization to get this equipment. So, everything starts kind of local the way I see it.
Well, and the most local item is fear. This is all based in fear. Both ends of the argument are based in fear. Number one, the anti-gun, oh my God, the evil black rifle is going to jump out of the closet or out of the safe or from in the corner of the room or on the top shelf of the closet or whatever, on the mantelpiece, and it's going to run out and it's going to massacre children is the most base fear they can come up with. And now I think you combine that base fear with the desecration of the appeal to authority. And the appeal to authority is, you call anybody an expert or you call anybody You put them in a white coat, or you give them a badge, and they're the one you're supposed to follow. And now there's been some sort of really a desecration of that ideal in the society, and you combine that with fear, and you've got a great big old right prime pig for the plucking.
So the way I look at it is, you know, you've got a populace, and to hear the president say it is easily more able to purchase a Glock than it is to purchase a book. You know, I want to know what bookstore this guy's shopping at, because if they got some bookstores that are selling Glocks, I'm going to go there. And
Well,
just the type of arguments that go thrown out there, the strawman arguments. After 7.5 years, when are people going to wake up?
Nick, honestly, I feel that people will wake up when there's no more 99-cent drive-through meals, and when there's no more extra entertainment on the television, no more, football extravaganza, no more Kardashian ass, no more race car special, whatever it is. Yeah. That's when that goes off, and the 99-cent burgers go off. That's it. Yeah. Turn the food stamps off.
Oh,
and I'll tell you, as a firearm owning American who is somewhat interested in the direction of this country and the way that certain events occur, this Dallas event was very, very interesting to compare it to the Boston marathon bombing of a few years ago. It was very, very interesting to see the difference in the way the police acted. In the Boston event, the police shut down an entire city. Now, and that's an important distinction to make. The police and the law shut down an entire city. The badge came in and locked the place down. And in Dallas, it was quite the opposite. It was one man with one rifle, a little bit of training and determination, locked down an entire police force of a major metro area. And I live in Texas. I had access to decent live updates with a local media outlet, and there was every agency in the area was there. Game and Fish was there. The marshals were there. Every constable was there. Arson investigators were there. Anybody with a badge and a gun and the ability to fire at this guy showed up.
So here's my question. You just outlined that every single one of these agencies was present and had people there, and you could see that the list of the victims, the officers who were shot and killed, includes people that were like transit cops, not just Dallas or Metro PD, correct?
Right.
Okay.
And now let's explain that. Dallas, they called them DART cops, and that's Dallas Area Rapid Transit, and that's for the bus system and for the light rail that runs through Dallas. And that's in the major part of downtown. And those cops are just like, that's their main concern is those areas, but they got a badge and a gun, and in the end, there's no black or white to them. They're just blue. So they all work together. And I'm not surprised that DART cops were at this event, because honestly, cops make a lot of overtime, and the overtime is controlled by police unions, and they're all members of the police union. So it's not, they don't look for cops and then only want Dallas cops. They put out that request to whoever needs these cops for security, and it goes into a pool, and the union picks out 20 DART cops and 20 Dallas PD, and then 20 sheriff's department, or whatever the local surrounding agencies are to fill that.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, there's plenty of jobs for cops like that, and they make good money. I mean, they make like $60-$80 an hour doing that overtime stuff.
Well, the way I look at it is, you've got a Metro PD that is more apt to shoot an 80-year-old guy in a wheelchair when they get called out to some suburb, instead of being able to handle one guy who has just a bare minimum of training from an elevated position.
Okay, so you're kind of familiar with what this guy's service was. He was in the National Guard, is that correct?
No, he was in the U.S. Army Reserves. Apparently he was a reservist in an engineer company.
And for the layman, what's an engineer company?
So an engineer company is what we would say would fall under the category of maneuverability and survivability. For a very basic term, they build stuff and they blow shit up. So they
Do they
handle
like build bases and then go and
no,
blow up
not even
people's
exactly.
ship?
Not exactly. A you know, 15 years ago, a combat engineer would have been schooled in demolition, or would have been trained to use explosives such as C4 or det cord or things of that nature. Nowadays, because we are shrinking an army, engineers are being used just like infantrymen, which is to go out, seize ground, control the ground that they're on, and fight with and close to destroy the enemy in close quarters combat. So that's basically what engineers are doing in the current missions we have in Afghanistan and Iraq. That doesn't necessarily mean that all engineers do that, because you have such thing as prime power engineers, you have construction engineers, you have mobile bridge crew engineers. This all falls under the category of maneuverability and survivability. This one individual, from all accounts that I've read, did not have any specific training. He was not a sniper. Just because he happened to have a rifle with a scope on it did not mean that he's received any type of precision small arms marksmanship. He, it's just like you said, the fear is being heaped on people to think that there's this one guy,
and it's basic marksmanship, right?
yeah.
This is the basic
I
rifleman
will tell
course
you
that
that the difference.
every guy goes through in the military, right? Or every soldier in the military goes through.
Right. So here's this. You would think, for an active duty soldier, a soldier who spends every single day in a uniform, the Army Reserve, you're talking 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year out in the summertime that they are actually doing their job. Everything else for them as a reservist, outside of being activated and on a deployment, is just once a month. So, the level of proficiency that this guy had, while he may have been able to make up some kind of shortfall in his own time, it's not going to be the same as if that had been a soldier from an individual army unit going out there and doing that, and a guy who has the experience of having deployed to Afghanistan or Iraq. But this is one guy who locked up an entire city's police department just from an elevated position.
And Nick, not only locked it up, but I mean, put these guys into fear. They were crying on the street corners. They were crying on TV. And granted, they lost friends and everything, but it's a very, very, very different picture than what we were shown in Boston.
Yeah, certainly. And not only that, like I said, make no mistake, what the guy did was criminal, and he paid the price for it. Okay? The issue that I have is that you have a society which now believes, and is largely backed up by the police forces willing to do this, is that they're going to go ahead and execute somebody without having seen any type of conviction or any type of what they call due process, because that's what it was all about. It was all about due process a few years ago. We couldn't take away people's rights until we exercised due process. So the problem is that being a combat vet or not doesn't necessarily mean that you have any type of training that puts you in a better position to do something like this. You could be deployed in a unit and you sit on a fob for 365 days, and all you know how to do is go to the chow hall 3 times a day and get fat. Trust me, I've seen those people. They exist, and they get paid just the same amount of money as I do.
It's very important. It's very important that you make that distinction. The most important thing that the shooter had was he had the will and determination to do this.
Exactly. Michael, one of the things that a lot of people talk about, especially with Donald Trump, they talk about, oh, he's going to build a wall, he's going to keep all these people out of here. Okay, well, let me tell you something that I learned as a young soldier, is that people who build walls are monuments themselves to stupidity. Because you know what? Every single wall can be breached. It just takes will. Okay? Think about in the Middle Ages when entire cities were walled, and they were either breached or they were starved into submission. Walls can keep people out just like they can keep people in. Look at every single wall that has been tried.
The dead over the wall and give them the plague.
There you go. Or starve them and throw bread over and watch the people.
Luckily, we don't have to worry about a wall. We don't have to worry about a wall on many different fronts. Number one, because the Mexican president said he's not going to pay for a wall. And a shout out to all my Mexican people, because I know it will probably get repossessed. You guys make a shitty deal on the payments and you get repossessed. The wall will get repossessed. Number two, because Hillary's going to be the president.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about that today.
That's just a plain straight up fact. I mean, if you can honestly look at this situation, the direction that this country has taken for the last 10 years, and this election process, and you cannot say with all honesty that Hillary is the one and your vote, your voice means anything. I really think you really need to examine like what's going on. I mean, it's fixed, and it's not good for any of us. And gun control is on the top of the list.
Well, you remember, Michael, you were growing up in the 90s at the early part, and as I was growing up at the later part. It takes a village to raise a child, right? I mean, that was the famous tagline. And not only that,
Hillary quotes all day. Honestly, what we're doing right now is just a part of the vast right-wing conspiracy.
We are. Unfortunately, we are. Although I've been accused of being a shill, I don't know where I've seen that before, but who knows? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't mean to make you choke on your stuff.
Yeah, you made me choke on all my gold coins.
There you go. So yeah, like I said, the thing that gets me about this whole situation in Dallas is that you got to remember, what do the presidents say after one or the second or the third, oldest, mass shooting? It was, these types of things just don't happen in other civilized and developed nations, right?
Well, absolutely, yeah.
So he's obviously forgotten about the guy who killed over 70 people in Norway. I mean, I don't think too many people talk about Norway being a undeveloped nation.
No, I mean it's part of the rhetoric. It's part of the propaganda. All right.
Look at Canada. Canada had the one that attacked Parliament. Killed it happens. It happens in every country. I mean, Mexico has some of the strictest gun laws on paper, but look, I mean, it's only for Americans. There's no gun laws for other Mexicans with drugs and guns. Those don't apply to them. Only trying to enter the country.
So, I mean, I watched a little bit of the hearing today for Loretta Lynch, and Representative John Conyers bust out, and I think there should be some sort of like amendment or law, or I don't know, like the English have a dude named Black Rod who sits in their parliament and like will smack you if you get out of line, but he didn't address anything that was going on with the Loretta Lynch situation and the FBI investigation of Hillary Clinton, and he went directly to gun control. This is their number one issue. They are coming for the guns, and the legislation is pending. I'm sure there are people feverishly figuring out which ways they can subvert the Constitution easiest and most judiciously.
Yeah. Well, the way I look at it, it's simple. If you have an idea to do anything in terms of the political process, and if you saw these hearings and you were disgusted by either James Comey or Loretta Lynch, and you still believe that writing a letter has anything to do with the way things go, talk to your representative about impeachment, because I'll tell you what, they're not providing for the common defense of this country. This country does not follow the rule of law. We have Hillary Clinton, who broke the law. The FBI director admits she broke the law.
This is what I get. I don't think anymore. You can't petition the government for anything and expect it's going to work. As we've seen in the last week, the rule of law has been completely subverted. You have no voice that counts for anything in the system.
Yeah.
If you work within the system, you are destined to fail. That's just an ugly truth.
We are just the right size to fail.
There could not be a more true statement than that we are exactly the right size to fail. And that's what the system is designed for. And every event will be milked, whether it's a manufactured event, whether it's I would say that considering all the controversy and I do believe that a lot of these events have suspicious FBI involvement to the shooter prior to the event. I think that it's fair to say, and this shooter had none of that FBI involvement that's come out.
No, and not only that, this guy was pretty
out of the Dallas
this guy was pretty definite about his desire to kill whites.
I think this was not a fake FBI look at us, we're heroes, give us more budget funding, please. I think this was, they were scared.
Well, not only they were scared, they were not prepared.
Whatever the story is that comes out, whatever happened scared the hell out of those Dallas cops.
Well,
whether it was one or two shooters, you know, if you went by what happened on the live stream, of the many different news reports that were going on, there was a woman arrested in the garage. There were reports from two shooters from two different locations, and there was also a vehicle, and I'd like to almost point out that it was a Mercedes, because in Texas, that's Mercedes for a younger person is almost a sign of being not from Texas. And if you want to catch what I mean by that. And those were two guys that ran from the cops, and it was, they felony stopped them on the highway, and there were many reports of witnesses weren't cooperating, and the story changes as the guy dies, with the robot bomb with 1 pound of C4. Nick, you played with C4. What does that do?
No, I personally have not played with C4. I want to make sure that that's not out there. I'll tell you what, it is a. I mean, seeing it in your working environment. Sure. It's a malleable substance, and with the proper application of a charge, can be used to do everything from breach a door to blow a hole in a wall, to create spall and kill people that way. Like I said, the thing that I want to get is that whether or not you use an explosive charge, whether or not you use a projectile from a bullet, whether or not you use some kind of non-lethal weapon such as the burners that they use to try and create enough smoke to force someone out of a building. The issue I have is that the cops are not the appropriate arbiters of justice when it comes to killing someone. If it's in the interest of public safety, yeah, okay, you can make an argument for that. But I'll tell you what, you're going to get a lot more information out of somebody if they're alive to go ahead and question them versus trying to find stuff out from their Facebook feed. I mean, this is just basic. I spent quite a bit of time in Iraq trying to make sure that I found out as much about a organization or a network of people who were trying to do bad things prior to just killing them. Because if I kill them, I can't get any information, and I can't stop a next attack. But I think we've kind of forgotten that, and certainly our law enforcement hasn't taken that lesson to heart. We've been in Afghanistan as a nation for nearly 16 years, and we've been doing this for a long time. And quite a few members of those law enforcement officers are former soldiers and veterans, so they know what to do. But you have this, like I said, the city managers, the city planners, or the mayors of these towns that are the ones telling these people, hey, look, a certain amount of casualties is an acceptable loss. So it's all about
I don't even think it's necessarily that city managers say that it's an acceptable loss. It's more of an item that any sort of shooting is investigated by who? Other police.
Yeah, and that's when they come in with the misnomer of saying, oh, well, internal affairs is handling that. Like, who makes up internal affairs? Other cops.
Other police.
There you go.
And those other cops will weed out the bad apples. And how many times have you heard the phrase, it's a few bad apples? I'm sorry. It's not a bowl of apples. It's more like a pancake or a milkshake that's been injected with diarrhea. There's just no other way to use some of the. Yeah, no, you have to purge the whole thing. It's not you can't just pull out some of these, because honestly, they work. These bad apples work with other apples, And these other apples are not blind. Their job is to see crime. They know that the other apples are committing crime and they ignore it. Therefore, the not caught bad apples are definitely bad apples just because they haven't been found.
And not only that, but you have the ones that are willing to look the other way.
Yeah.
So I'm dropping some links in chat. These are some articles that you and I had talked about, and the interesting thing
I heard is the mayor of Dallas saying that Black Lives Matter protesters will be giving preferential hiring in the hiring process for the Dallas Police Department. I really think that this is really all going the absolute wrong direction. And honestly, the Dallas chief of police is probably the last person we should listen to, considering he can't even control his own
he can't even control his own son.
The chief of police of Dallas, what's his name? David Brown.
There you go.
David Brown, his son in 2010 shot and killed a Dallas police officer.
Yep. So Black lives don't matter all that much.
So it's this two-faced rhetoric, and immediately the issue is firearms, and it's been because this happened in Texas with our somewhat open gun laws. I mean, there's a version of open carry in Texas. You can carry a long gun, and that's perfectly legal in the state of Texas. I'll tell you what, I don't necessarily think it's a good idea because you're going to get hassled by every fucking cop you see.
Yeah, certainly, and then especially not in and around any town next to a military installation.
Right. So, I mean, to me, that's like this. It's not the same as Arizona, where open carry of a handgun has been legal, and that's quite common in Arizona. Here, it's a little bit different, and there's a different culture regarding firearms in the state of Texas. And I've noticed that a lot of the people directly connected to the event in positions of authority in the state of Texas, in the city of Dallas and in Dallas County and that area, have been sort of ambivalent about their answers regarding the protection of the Second Amendment. And nobody's made a firm stance saying that no, it's not the firearm, that this was a criminal act by somebody with criminal intent.
So Michael, let me stop you right then and there. So we're talking about intent versus actual actions, right? Whether or not somebody intended to break the law. Right?
We already hear the deal with intent. Thank you, Mrs. Clinton.
There you go. Making a law where no previous law had existed nor was necessary to secure a conviction.
Take a little bit for me to be able to think on this double standard, to realize that yes, I can't do this, but they can do this. That's going to be just a tad tough.
Yeah. Well, go figure. So
I'm just seeing honestly, the outrageous amount of propaganda that once again occurred that accompanies every one of these events. I sent you the video earlier, and I'm telling you, it's right up there with the shoulder thing that goes up. I don't remember her name. It was on MSNBC, or no, I'm sorry, she was on Fox, and she's billed as an expert. And to make an assault rifle, first thing you do is you put a scope on it.
Yeah.
Then you get a machine gun adapter that turns your double shot rifle into a killing machine. And basically you can buy all these parts at any grocery store.
Right. So the stupid is strong with this woman, just to begin with. I think you got to preface that. I mean, literally, my head wanted to explode. Listening.
I had to watch it 4 times just to pick up every bit of. I mean, it was an adult version of Miss South Carolina giving Americans don't have masks, the gun part.
Yeah, and the thing is that
she's an expert.
I don't trust anyone in the media to be an expert on anything, but I certainly don't trust anyone to be professed as an expert when they're obviously uncomfortable even talking about firearms as soon as the camera goes on them.
That's the thing. All right, so many discussions as to what firearms were used by the shooter. And initially it came out as dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
AR-15.
There you go.
15. So it was no longer an AR-15. Then it became an SKS.
Yes.
And then after an SKS, Wall Street Journal is reporting that it was a Sega 5.45 by 39, which is a semi-automatic, somewhat of a Kalashnikov-style action rifle in the current Soviet military caliber. That ammunition used to be dirt cheap. It's gone up quite a bit. There was a ban against that ammunition.
There was an attempted
yeah, the 7N ban, and that was a great big joke. This guy also had a Glock 19. He had a
evil Gaston Glock model.
So right there, we've hit the two big. We've hit an evil black rifle and an AK-47, and we've hit a Glock. So AK-47 and Glock, we're real close to getting the hat trick. And then we followed up with two what are loosely termed as Saturday night specials. One was a Lorson 25, and the other was a Cobra Patriot 380. Both those guns are better than a sharp stick and some harsh words, but that's about it.
Yeah.
They're both fairly inexpensive firearms. They both come in at less than $250, definitely new. And $250 is if you're buying it at the wrong store at the wrong price. More like less than $200 everywhere. And the news says that these things are available at everywhere for $25. I have yet to see a functioning firearm for sale for $25.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty unaffordable right there.
I'd have to get in the DeLorean or the Wayback Machine and go back to sometime in the mid '80s to maybe find an SKS or something like that at that price, but nothing like that now. So I mean the question is how did he get these firearms? He purchased all these firearms legally. Nothing would have stopped this guy.
No, absolutely. No amount of legislation would have prevented this guy from doing what he wanted to do.
That would have prevented it, and they did bring that up today in several of the media outlets that this does not happen in Australia. Australia had a complete and total ban on semi-automatics of all sorts, a complete and total handgun. And they should point to Australia being this model. Well, number one, Australia is a fucking island. Number two, Australia has a population of like 25 million. Okay, California has a population of 36 million.
Yeah.
It's not. And when that ban was in place, guess what? Australia was a much more homogenous society. They hadn't been hit by their immigration influx.
Yeah.
And so maybe it works in Australia, but it's not in the United States.
Not only that, you're dealing with a different society of people. Okay, you're dealing with people that, number one, don't have a God-given right to own firearms. They never had that. So that's one of the things that right out there. Yeah, I think that you got to frame the argument, and you've got to be able to show that there are certain aspects of the conversation that get glossed over altogether. So, that's something right there.
Well, the Australia gun ban has been, I really think, is their ultimate goal. And, they like to say it's a buyback
total
number.
Confiscation is their ultimate goal. That's
total
the ultimate goal.
Well, I think they'd be quite satisfied with a limit of, like Uncle Joe Buckshot Biden says, buy a shotgun. You get your double barrel shotgun. You go up on your porch or your veranda and you fire 2 blasts off in the air to scare the looters off.
Yeah.
That's
I'll
the way
tell
to
you
take care of it.
If somebody's trying to break into my house, do you think I would just want to scare them? No, I want to scare them to death. I want to scare them to death in the sense that buckshot that I used went right through them. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, because guess what? You scared them, and then they just invaded your neighbor's house.
Well, not only that, they tell their friends. They tell their friends.
Right. Guess what? That dude's got daughters. They're kind of cute.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So
Got to watch.
one of the funny things that gets ignored is a lot of times is inconvenient statistics and facts, right? Everybody has a factoid, everybody has a statistic when they want to talk about prevention of violence involving guns, as well as trying to push the agenda with gun control. So,
and plenty of agenda pushing on this, plenty of it,
yeah,
and buzzwords, full of buzzwords. This is the worst event since 9/11. I've heard that several times without the qualifier for law enforcement.
Yeah. So if this is the worst event for law enforcement since 9/11, and they lose 5 guys, so obviously we don't have that bad of a problem when it comes to mass shootings. I mean, think about it. That's what 9/11 was 2001. This is 2016. So in 15 years, 5 cops dying at any one time was the worst. I'd say that's a relatively safe society. I don't think you can go into a developing nation like Obama claims and see 5 cops killed at once.
Well, and honestly, you also have to take, these aren't just cops. Because once again, when we say cops, we think of officer friendly who just arrested people. These are roving execution squads, and they've, like you said, judge, jury, and executioner, judge, dread all the way. And people are tired of that, honestly.
Yeah. Like I said, I was getting ready to talk about some inconvenient facts. Like I said before, we've been in a state of war for the better length of 2 presidencies, and you've got more deaths in Chicago in the last 4 years than you have in all of the combat deaths in Afghanistan. An active war zone, you've got more deaths in Chicago in that time.
Well, I know that there's been 2,000 shootings so far this year in Chicago. That's not 2,000 deaths. That's 2,000 shootings. And it's all basically from the same areas in Chicago. The problem isn't the guns. The problem is what's going on in those areas, the laws, the society, the economics of that area, the education of that area, the opportunity of that area. It's kind of marginalized to a small group in the Chicago area. It's predominantly black, and I'll tell you what, you want to heal the rift in society between the police and everybody. There's 2 important steps that they have to take. Number 1, they have to quit shooting people for. If you've got a joint, they shoot you. They send a SWAT team to your house and bust down your door for less than a quarter ounce of marijuana.
They send a SWAT team to your house even if you don't have anything, such as what happened in Pima County, Arizona, happened in Tucson.
They throw flashbangs at babies, right? It's this fraudulent war on drugs that causes this whole all this just police ultra violence that's going on. Number 1, it's this absolute fraudulent war on drugs that's creating this problem, combined with the fact that when a cop gets busted for beating somebody's brains out or shooting them 42 times in the front seat or whatever they do, that gets caught on tape, and that's the only reason that it becomes an outrage, is because it gets caught on film somehow, or caught on video, or caught on audio. The lawsuit comes in, and it's paid by the taxpayer.
Yeah, totally.
And if you really want to start looking at some numbers, the city of New York, not the state of New York, the city of New York in the last 10 years has paid out $500 million. That's $500 million in settlement fees for NYPD police brutality and violence.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, it's a sad state of affairs.
To make that the taxpayer is no longer responsible for that debt, that money comes from the officer, and it comes from the officers as a whole. Because the officers act as a whole, they are defended as a whole, then they should be responsible as a whole. So when Officer Johnny Blue decides that he's going to beat the shit out of grandma with a taser and a nightstick and before he pops her in the head and shoots her dog, the old guy who's about to retire better grab the taser from Johnny Blue and say, "You do not fuck up my retirement. You're going to beat my bass boat out of her."
Yeah. Well, they like I said, they don't do that.
Those are the only two things that will stop what's going on in this country with the cops. Anything other than that, you're wasting your time. It's just going to fucking continue, and you're going to have more and angrier people. Baton Rouge is about to explode. Shout out to my friend Mr. Bond, who is kind of in the line of fire. Man, stay safe out there. Minneapolis is about to explode. I mean, shit's going on.
But let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at the officers involved in the shooting in Minneapolis. What color were those officers?
The ones that got shot at?
No. The ones that were involved in the shootings of these guys in Minneapolis.
I think one was named like Brandon Yanez or something like that, and the other one was a white guy, I think.
No.
But you know what? When it comes down to it, cops ain't black, cops ain't white, cops ain't Vietnamese, cops ain't Hindu, cops ain't Chinese. Cops are blue. They are all blue. Every fucking one of them is blue. Once you give them that badge, it turns them blue.
Yeah.
Well, and it don't matter. Green,
that doesn't apply in Dallas because they want you to be a certain color in order to come work for them.
I don't know. I'll tell you what. I mean, we're a firearms related show, and this is really disturbing. I mean, Joe Biden's on air yesterday calling for more bans on armor piercing ammunition. Nick, is the 855 considered armor piercing ammunition? It's really not.
No, it's not. As a matter of fact, we don't even use that in active service any longer. So, I mean, we have improved upon that round.
And I bet you pay a pretty penny per bullet.
Well, somebody does.
I wonder who that lucky guy is.
or group of people.
Yeah, that would be John Keep Up with taking it once again taxpayer style.
There you go.
America's favorite to watch football in.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You know, talking about firearms. One of the better bumper stinkers I've seen in the last couple of days had a quote that I think has been thrown around a lot. It says, "You ever heard of something called 'Think of the Children'?"
I think I've heard that phrase before.
Right. So under the tag "Think of the Children" had a picture of a 22 short, 22 long, and a 22 long rifle round.
That's a beautiful thing.
I thought that was pretty good.
Speaking of which, what's your 22 long rifle availability?
Actually, we have just the two major big box and Walmart in my area. There's a couple mom and pop places, but they want $8 for 50 rounds of CCI Stingers at the mom and pop place. Walmart doesn't carry 22 at all, and Gander Mountain and Dick's have it in varying quantities. Usually only stocking probably once a month the Remington bucket of bullets, and then everything else is either the RWS ammo, the target ammo, and or the Remington Ely. And very rarely will they get in the 300 round bricks of the CCIs. So after that's the choice in my area.
Okay, so I've seen in my area the big box retailer, the predominant big box retailer, which is Academy, has tons of ammo from Aguila and PMC 22 long rifle. They've got that. It's no longer behind the counter. It's back out on the shelves. They keep the CCI behind the shelf still. And they did not have a whole bunch of Winchester until the other day when they got in a whole bunch of the 333s, and they've actually put that out on the shelf. Every gun store's got it. Walmart does not have 22, but Walmart's fairly stocked on 9mm, 45, 40, a 7.62 by 5.1, and the 5.56, and of course, every shotgun shell you can think of course, except for buckshot and slugs. But that's kind of the ammunition availability here. So it's all still on the shelf. I've seen people at the stores. I've got a friend who runs a gun shop, and pretty much every time I've been in his shop in the last couple of days, or last couple times I should say, it's been fairly busy. He's got a good number of people in there, and people are buying handguns and asking interesting questions. And I'm not saying illegal questions, but questions that are kind of not the usual. People are inquiring about body armor.
Now that could run them into some trouble.
I don't think so. I mean, it's a legal product. I mean, and these are working class folks. These are not criminals. These are ranchers. These are people work plants and stuff like that. It's not a criminal shop by any kind of means. But there's been some inquiries into body armor. I mean, people are kind of concerned about what's going on.
No, I mean, I can understand the concern, but I'll tell you what, it goes back to the it takes a village. Hillary Clinton during the 90s was a big proponent of the state bearing the responsibility to raise and educate children. Parents were secondary to that, was the gist of her quote. I'll tell you what, if you take your family's responsibility in your own hands, I guarantee you your family will fare far better than anybody who leaves that up to the government to do.
The state can do nothing but ruin you, because that is the state's job, is to grind you into pulp to feed you to the next generation.
You are Soylent Green.
You are. You just haven't been put into a can yet.
Tell you what.
And they're trying. They're trying for the can.
Yeah. Well, the way I look at it is, we're getting closer to the shooting phenomenon known as hunting season. Where I'm at, hunting season starts for.
Well, I'm glad you refer to the shooting season known as the political conventions.
Well, that too, but what is it? We've said that we will have the 5th largest standing civilian army at that point.
Right. It's a what is it? It's approximately 700 million hunters will take to the field with sniper assault rifles, I guess now.
Well, it can't be 700 million, because we're a nation of only 330 million. So,
well, I'm just getting my facts from CNN, man.
Oh, okay, I got it. So yeah, you would figure that in a nation of 330 million, probably say a good third of that are practiced and participating hunters. I would say that's probably a fair assessment. Would you?
I'd say less than that. I would say of the 330 million in the nation, I'd say that 1/3 are somewhat familiarized with firearms.
Okay. Well,
and by familiar, comfortable, know how to use one, know how to go get one, know a friend who's got one, and they're not necessarily thinking that it's going to jump off the couch and jump out of the holster and kill you while you're in the kitchen, when you're not looking.
Yeah. So, the
funny thing is,
depending upon who you listen to, different news agencies put that between 13.7 million hunters between the age of 16 and, that was a 2013 statistic. And they said that the number of U.S. gun owners were outnumbered by hunters 5-1. So obviously, we have a population that believes in their inherent God-given right to own firearms and to use them in a legal fashion. But what we have a problem with is the people who don't use them in a legal fashion, and that's where the argument gets thrown around with all.
But the problem isn't even that they won't use firearms in a legal fashion, because if they've got that mindset, they're going to use whatever they can get in an illegal fashion or a legal fashion to do the same thing. Now, if you really want to, the Happy Land Social Club fire in 1985, that killed like 84 people or something, and the guy used like 2 gallons of gas and some matches.
Yeah. Well, like I said, where there's a will, there's a way. And that's one of the things that anybody who's involved in risk management or risk mitigation, those are the things that keep people up at night. People that have the job of trying to think about all the bad things that somebody is going to do. We had a problem with thinking outside the box, and in 2001, it came back to bite us in the butt. because nobody ever thought that somebody would hijack an airplane and use it as a precision-guided munition.
Right, except for, all the statements and all the previous facts and the various operations that showed that was exactly what they had trained
Well,
for.
not only that, but people were still worried about the year 2000 virus ruining computers that year.
We've been lied to on a grand scale.
So,
and honestly, I think the chickens are coming home to roost. So listen,
well, you've been
times are
listening to
bad.
Reverend Jeremiah Wright.
I think so. I did quote the Reverend Jeremiah Wright. Look, firearms are at a. I think
flying off the shelves
right
now. I'll tell you that much.
They are flying off the shelves. The gun stocks are going through the roof, and there's a lot of discussion about your rights. So, most important, you have to be safe with these firearms so we don't give anybody any more ammunition to use against us in this. What's really a vital fight. Now, and honestly, I can't thank Jules at UCY, the creator of this, enough for giving me the platform where if I do nothing else the entire time I've wasted all this bandwidth doing this, is just somebody remember the 4 rules of gun safety and maybe think about them before you pick up a firearm, or you can pass them on to somebody else if you show them a firearm or see them acting unsafe with a firearm. So first off, every firearm is loaded until you visually and physically inspect and verify that it is not loaded. Rule number 2 is keep the muzzle of the gun pointed in a safe direction at all times. Do not cover anything you don't wish to destroy. Rule number 3, know what's your target and know what's beyond your target at all times. And the most important rule, I can't say it enough, please keep the booger hook off the bang switch until you are ready to discharge the weapon. Keep your finger out of the trigger guard until you are ready to shoot the gun. Do not pick it up with your finger out of the holster, out of the box, nothing like that with your finger on the trigger. Be safe.
There you go. That's how to stay out of jail in a nutshell.
Yeah, stay out of jail, keep some bucks in your pocket, keep some heartache from happening. Honestly, keep Hillary from using something against your right to own a firearm, your right to protect yourself. Your last best way to say, no, I do not comply.
Yeah. Well, you know who was not complying was the FBI in D.C., not complying with departmental policy to safeguard their firearms. I just dropped a link in chat.
Let's go over that again. What is it between Fast and Furious and cops and FBI agents not locking their car doors? What are they, like the third largest distributor of firearms in the nation? I mean, they're like right behind Bud's Gun Shop and Davidson's.
Yeah, well, in addition to this being happening, there was shots fired in D.C. So at police officers today.
Honestly, I'm really kind of disappointed in the way that the law enforcement is acting and is handling things, and really the fact that the gun used to kill Kate Steinle, with the illegal immigrant in the sanctuary city of San Francisco.
Yeah,
that gun was taken from an agent's vehicle or whatever, and I really think that was part of the reason why that law didn't get passed. They don't want to be responsible. They don't want to have that law on there.
Certainly not. No,
because their agent was sloppy. No, we're just going to sweep this one under the rug. Well, guess what, America? That lump under the rug is going to block the television very fucking soon. Very soon it will be in your way, and you will not be able to see the TV anymore. And guess what? When you can't see the TV anymore, you will see the large elephant in the room as well.
So the Washington Post is reporting that the assailant in the shootout with the Washington, D.C. cops was using a Mac 11.
Well, shit, that explains why there's no dead. Why there's no dead. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, look, the Mac 11 and the Mac 10's greatest impact is in films and in rap
songs. Yeah, there you go.
I mean, what was it? The Young and Restless line? The bitch kept on yakety yakking, so I'd go to the trunk and pop the clip in the Mac 10. Yeah, I mean that's the impact of the Mac 10. Other than being like a short, very very short range bullet hose. Its impact is movies and rap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shout out to Military Armaments Corporation of, well, I think that was Conyers, Georgia, back in the early 80s. What up, dude?
Yeah. So, I haven't had a chance to go out and do any kind of perusing. Been very busy with work. It was out of the area for a couple weeks, so trying to get back into the swing of things. And I think I'm going to take some time this week to do some maintenance, some cleaning. Shot my rifles for the last couple weeks, and want to go ahead and make sure that I'm running at least the bare minimum, run the bore snake through them. But one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about in the last closing seconds is, what do you think the best way to do a quick clean on your rifles is?
Oh, I'd say you do a field strip. You hit it with a can of whatever you got handy. You run a bore snake down it. You clean the bolt face as good as you can, and then depending on what your next use is, you wipe that thing down with a heavy coat of oil. And I say a heavy coat of oil because I live on the coast, and salt air eats everything. You leave a gun unoiled out, and it will be Cheeto orange in 2 days. So that's kind of what I do. If I plan to use it again, within the next couple of days, I don't generally put on that heavy a coat of oil. But if it's going to sit, I slather that shit on. And honestly, I use motor oil.
Oh, there you go. Most folks I know will take the REM oil. They'll go ahead and open up if it's a bolt gun. They'll open up the bolt, remove the bolt, coat that with the REM oil, let it do its job, and then I've even seen some folks hitting carb cleaner down the barrel.
I've got no problem with carb cleaner as long as it's non-chlorinated. The problem is if you use chlorinated brake cleaner on a firearm and get it on any kind of like finished surface, it's going to destroy that finished surface if you are not lightning fast lickety split. And even if you are, it's still going to cause some kind of damage to that surface. So make sure if you do use brake cleaner, non-chlorinated brake cleaner.
There you go. Well, Michael, it's another whiz bang afternoon going into evening, and guys, it's good to be on here with you. I want to give a big thank you to Jules as well as all of our listeners. Good to be with you.
Nick, I want to say thank you to you for being here. I'd like to say thank you to Jules, and I'd like to say thank you that terrorist events did not happen in my town today. But once again, thank you to Jules at ECY. This is a wonderful platform. It's the only thing like it out there. Man, there's just so much radio here, and I'm grateful to be a part of it. And I look forward to doing every week I can with you, Nick. Do what patriots do. Fight up, fight up, fight up, fight up, fight up, fight up, fight up. Before you wish you fight up, fight up, fight up, fight up, fight up, fight up, fight up. Before you wish you fight up, fight up, fight up, fight up, fight up, fight up. Before you wish you fight up, fight up.
My name is S.M. Gibson.